Hello everyone, and welcome to the Drinking with Dana Halloween Spooktacular. I'm Dana, and this is Becky here, who's looking very confused because she just woke up. It's the only way I could find her to bring her on camera. Usually she's asleep when I'm shooting, but she's my baby girl, and I'm going to let her flee in just a second. But I thought I'd welcome you all to this special show. Now we're going to be at 6 o'clock, hopefully all the time from here on out, but I thought I'd do a little something special for Halloween, which is, of course, trans Christmas. So I've got more than the usual amount of goodness packed into this show. I want to thank the folks who are showing up. Darth Christoph, it looks like, Darth Christoph, says poor kitty. One of her favorite things in the world is actually to be held at the back door and brushed. The only reason she's acting this way right now is because she's on camera and I'm talking like this, and she's not used to me being quite so loud when she's getting the loves. So, alright, I will let her flee though. And Winter Vespers gives hugs to Becky. Yes. And yes, okay, I was apparently pronouncing Darth Christoph correctly. Let's see. Oh, Lydia Ray! Good to see you! I'm glad you could make it. Let's see. And yes, thank you for following Darth Christoph. I appreciate it. And hi, Winter Vespers. Glad you could make it this time. We got a lot to go through tonight, so I'm going to start off with one of my favorites, and I'm going to take the hat off because it's nice, but there's also the whole, it's a culture, not a costume, and also it's going to make it difficult. I'm afraid it's going to fall into the shaker or something like that and get all over the place. But Winter Vesper says she really likes the hat. Thank you. My wife and I each got a hat like this. Hers has a furry rim around the edge of it, and but we each got witch hats very long ago, actually, at this point. So we would always have them here. But I will hang it, I will keep it in view over, so when we look at the drinks, you can still see the hat over there. I had to do something, and the only other costume that I really had that would have made any sense was a princess dress, and it has sleeves that hang down to here, and cooking in that is just miserable. So I figured I'd at least wear... Oh, I also had some vampire fangs that I got fitted back in college that just cap onto my teeth, but eating in those is miserable, so the witch hat was the best compromise. By the way, let me know how things are looking and sounding. If So we got a new kind of internet. We got fiber internet, so we should be just blazingly fast today. But if we start having problems, I can always switch back to the other one, the other system. We still have it installed, and we can work out the problems later. But I'm a little worried that it's going to start stuttering or have problems later on. So let me know if that does happen. It's probably not on your end. All right, so our first drink of the evening is the Corpse Reviver number 2. Now, this is a drink that I only recently had for the first time. But it's a classic drink. It goes all the way back to the 1870s. There have been actually hangover cures called Corpse Revivers starting in 1871. This one was first noticed in 1875, or first discovered in it was dated back to 1875, let's put it that way. And you think a hangover cure would be like something that has, lots of juice and just a little bit of alcohol for, a hair of the dog that bit you kind of thing. This is a really strong cocktail. It's got, as you can see from the recipe there, gin and Cointreau and Lillet Blanc and absinthe and, some lemon juice just to top it off. So, that being said, Harry Craddock The person who wrote the Savoy Cocktail Book, which is a classic cocktail book, said that this is to be taken before 11 a.m. or whenever steam and energy are needed. And, well, I need some steam and energy to get through the full show today, so let's give it a try. Oh, and much like the James Bond cocktail that we did last week, this was originally made with Quina Lillet, which is no longer made. I'm not sure why they stopped making it, but they did. I'm going to be using Lillet Blanc, same as I did last week. That makes for a sweeter drink, so if you like yours a little more dry, you can substitute Koshi Americano, which is a type of dry vermouth that apparently substitutes a little closer to Quina Lillet, but I tried it with the Lillet Blanc the other day, and it was quite tasty. The other thing is, I've never actually had absinthe before. When I made this cocktail before, I used Pernod, and so I went out and bought just a little tiny airline bottle of absinthe, and I'll be using that this time. So that'll be interesting. From what I understand, it's an anise flavored liqueur. The wormwood thing doesn't actually make you hallucinate. It's just, that's just a legend or an excuse for taking other substances with it. Anyway, so let's give it a try, see how it works out. Now, we're going to start off with an ounce of lemon juice. And because it's Halloween, I'll bring out the big cleaver. All right. So, how's everyone doing out there, by the way? Daisy Redwood says, I usually just rinse the glass with it. I know people who do that. I tend to put it in the shaker just because I think I like it a little more well distributed. But also I've just never really done rinses. This is just, it's just, when I'm making drinks at home, it's just for me usually, so I don't feel like I need to get all fancy with it. Yeah, no, that is a perfectly valid other way to do it. I just, not the way I do it, but you certainly can do it that way. I see no problem. All right, so that's our ounce of lemon juice. Ounce of gin. Again, using the Ryan Reynolds Aviation Gin because that's what I have. And by the way, if my voice is a little huskier this week than usual, it's because we have an emergency air warning out there. The fires in the Cascades have been just brutal and uncontrolled. So this smoke has come into the Seattle area and is just sitting here. We're hoping to get some rain by Friday, and that will clear things up a bit, but it is really, really ugly out there right now. So if you're watching in the Seattle area, close the windows, turn up the air purifiers if you have them, and buckle down for a nice night, but it's pretty brutal out there. I was seeing one place said that the air quality index here at our house is 271 or something like that, or at least in our neighborhood, and then just like a couple miles away it's over 300, and 300 is where you get to the emergency levels of bad. So hi Ska, glad to see you could make it. And Ska says, we had your smoke yesterday, day off tonight. Yeah, I think we took that from you, and you can have it back. So I added an ounce of gin, an ounce of lemon juice, it's an ounce of Cointreau, and for people who know what they're doing, I'm probably mispronouncing all these, but that's how I pronounce it. I'm an American, I can get away with it. Actually, no, I can't, but I pretend that I can because I'm an American. All right, and then an ounce of Lillet Blanc. And again, if you have Lillet Blanc, keep it in the refrigerator. If you keep it out, it's going to go bad much faster. In the fridge, it lasts for freaking ever. So I just took this out of the fridge a few minutes before we started streaming. So, all right. And then I'm going to just do a quick dash of this. Hopefully, actually, I'm going to pour it into the cap. A little bit more than that. All right. And again, I always say buying airline bottles of boozes you want to try, if they're available, great way to try things. Expensive in the long run if you do like it, buy a big bottle. But if you're just trying out a new cocktail and it requires a liqueur you don't have, don't buy a full bottle of that liqueur that's just going to sit in your drinks cabinet and clog up space, and you're never going to use it again. If you like a drink and you just need a dash of it, of something, or you need an ounce of it, but you've never had the drink before and you don't know if you're going to like it, get an airline bottle and try it out that way first. And I've noticed that a lot of the craft distilleries around here are starting to get airline bottles of their good like whiskey and bourbon and that kind of thing. So, all right. Let's add some ice to this, shake it up, and see what we get. So, sorry, it's going to get loud here for a second. All right. So I just added some crushed ice and a few full cubes, which is my own personal little joke at the expense of Greg from How to Drink. Alright. The joke is that he always has these really gorgeous ice cubes that are about the size of your fist and perfect cubes, and he always puts in one full-size cube that's like this big on a side, and then puts in one that he breaks just by tapping it with his bar spoon in the right way. And I don't have that kind of setup, so I use crushed ice from the fridge and then ice cubes from the fridge. And there's a reason for that, which I can go into. I've gone into it before here. I'm going to show this on if I can get the back camera to work again. And let's see. Oh, it's got too many recipes this time. I have to scroll down to get the back camera. And there. So, as you can see right now, pretty opaque because of the shaking. It's got lots of little bubbles in it, but a nice sort of pale off-white, almost peach color to it. You can't really see on top from this camera angle, and I can't really tilt it so you can, but there's a nice layer of ice crystals there slowly melting on the top. So that's what it looks like. And let's give it a try. See how it is. That's really nice. So you do definitely get the a lot of the sort of a sour flavor to it. It is on some level a sour, sort of a gin sour. The Lillet Blanc though adds some complexity to it. Here, let me try this again. Oh, okay. So it gives an almost grapefruit bite to it at the beginning, but so much smoother than just grapefruit juice. But that kind of Yeah, it's almost a grapefruit flavor to it. Now, I don't think I added quite enough of the absinthe because I'm not getting the absinthe flavor coming through that I did in the when I used the Pernod. Um, but I'm gonna actually add just a smidge more and see if that brings out anything. Yeah, that might have been too much, but let's see. Yeah, there it is. So you get that almost minty absinthe, minty anise flavor um, on the finish. Um, all in all, again, if you like sours, this is a really nice drink. Not overly tart, but you'll notice there's no simple syrup added to this. The sweetener is the Cointreau. Um, the Lily Blanc it's got some sweetness to it, but it's more, I'd say, more herbal flavor in general. Um, Lydia Ray says, always more absinthe. And Winter Vesper says, sending you both warm wishes for your 20th next week. Thank you very much. So for those who don't know, next Thursday, I think it is actually. I think I said Friday earlier, but I think it's next Thursday is our 20th wedding anniversary for my wife and I. 20 years and one gender change along the way, and we're still somehow making it work. So looking forward to that. But that's also why, and I didn't mention this earlier, but it is why week after next. So I think it's like the 2nd or the 3rd of November when I normally do a show. I'm taking that week off, and we'll resume 2 weeks after that. So it's going to be a month until the next show. So another reason why I'm trying to cram as much in on this one as I can. All right. So that is the Corpse Reviver number 2. By the way, I did look at Corpse Reviver number 1, and this is actually something I should mention. There are other versions of the Corpse Reviver, it's a whole series of drinks. The Corpse Reviver number 1, it looks really interesting, but it requires Applejack or Calvados, which is basically apple brandy, and I didn't have any, so that's the only reason I didn't try that one first. I figured I'd try this one. And this one is noted to be the most popular. Most people like this one better than any of the others. So maybe on a future show, I'll get back to the Corpse Reviver number 1, and we can do a whole series on them. But in the meantime, we got to get started on the next recipe, which is, there we go, that roasted pumpkin seeds. And this is going to take a little bit to make, so I'm going to clean up a little bit here, and I will talk to you a little bit about this. So, and my kitchen is not nearly as clean as it normally is because it's all full of ingredients. All right, these are going over here for right now, hiding behind the hat. Sorry, shouldn't be off camera here like this, but right. Set that there for now. All right, so pumpkin seeds. This is an old family recipe, and I got it from my mom. I have no idea where she got it. It could have been from a friend, from a magazine. No idea. She probably didn't remember herself. She passed away a few years ago. But this is always how we used to make pumpkin seeds when I was growing up. I've made them for friends and family for years, and they are always a huge hit. So I thought I'd share them with you. Really simple to do. First, preheat your oven to 250, and then get a cookie sheet here. Put some foil on it. All right, and you don't need to spray this with oil. There is butter that we're going to put in with these seeds. And now, I got this nice big pumpkin thinking I was going to get a ton of seeds out of it. And I got just over a cup. So, we're going to only be able to do half a batch. Normally I do 3 pumpkins at a time, and so I always have to do like, a double or triple batch, and it takes forever for them to go. So I figured I'll get 1 pumpkin now, and that way if it goes bad before Halloween, I'll get a couple more, and we'll still have at least a couple pumpkins. But did not end up with as many seeds as I wanted. So one note on the pumpkin seeds is I say you want them cleaned but not washed, which means when you take them out of the pumpkin, you want some of the goop still on them. As a matter of fact, the goop on them is kind of the best part. It dries and has a really nice texture, but make sure you only use the, excuse me, someone's calling. Hopefully my beautiful wife will grab that. Anyway, you want to use the strings and sort of goopy bits from the inside, but if you scrape the walls, don't use the stuff scraped off the walls. You want it to feel slimy, not like cardboard. If it doesn't just sort of turn to goop in your hands when you're cleaning it out, then it's not the right stuff, and it's not going to taste good when you're done. So, Scott says that she loves my skirt, and thank you, so do I. So, I don't know if you can see it, but it's a Ouija board here, and it's got pockets. I absolutely love it, nice and soft. I got it from Witch Vamp, I believe. And actually, well, I should say I was given it as a gift for my birthday this year. So, alright. So, I've got my little over a cup of seeds here, and let's see. Winter Vesper says, I know, right? And the cat earrings. All right, this is the girly section of the show. I got these at a little boutique in a town called Leavenworth, up in the Cascade Mountains. It's where my brother lives. If you're ever up there, go to Icicle Brewery. He's not the brewmaster there anymore, but he used to be. They still, I think, have Pre-B Porter on tap. Incredible beers there. But yes, little shop that I got. I was just wandering through for Oktoberfest. Actually, my brother does a big apple squishing at his house. So also, Dean, if you're watching, hi. Anyway, but yes, I'm not even sure I was out of the closet yet when I got these. I think I slipped away and did a little shopping on my own. I was like, I need the black cat earrings. They faded a little bit, but all right. Yes, back to the recipe. All right, I'm not going to say the girly section is over, but it's paused for the moment. All right, so I'm going to be making half a recipe of this, a little over half a recipe, because that's all the pumpkin seeds I got. They've got some goop on them. If you want to see, this is how they should look. They're mostly white, but just a tinge of orange on them. And, these have been in the fridge for a little bit because I cut them, or I scraped them out earlier. Normally I just scrape them out of the pumpkin, go right to work. We're going to need, I'm going to do the melted butter first. So I've got, you should have a tablespoon and a half of melted butter. This is a little over 3/4 tablespoon. Now, traditionally, I always make a huge mess when melting butter. I'm just going to do it in the microwave here. There are a few ways to do it so you don't get a huge mess. I'm just going to basically hit the high power for 30 seconds and then just open the door every time it starts bubbling. Also, another trick is you want to cut it into small pieces, which I have done so it melts a little more evenly. So let's do that. All right. Let's see. Yeah, this is one of the few recipes that, it's very seasonal, obviously, because you get your pumpkin seeds. And I have a lot of seasonal recipes that Lori absolutely loves, and she doesn't understand why I don't make them more times during the year except at that season. It's because for me, they've always been, associated with that season. So I only make them at that time because it feels special. This one she can't complain about because I can only make it when we have pumpkins. All right. So Lydia says, I'm going to try this with some pre-shelled seeds. Give it a try. Let me know how it works out. I've never tried that. It may or may not work. You'll probably lose a little bit of the flavor just because of the lack of the pumpkin goop. But, give it a try. Let me know how it works. And, yeah, Lori says, I am perfectly capable of complaining about it. And yes, she is. All right. I'm going to add a 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. It should be a 1/4 teaspoon, but I'm doing a half. And I happen to have an 1/8 of a teaspoon measuring spoon that someone gave me a long time ago, and I think this may be the first time I've ever actually used it. Normally I estimate, but since I'm doing this for science and posterity. All right, and then we're going to add, again, it should be a 1/2 teaspoon, but I'm doing a 1/4 teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce. And I'm, again, probably butchering that name. If anyone out there is in England, please don't. Actually, what I need is people on to be watching this on YouTube and start a fight in the comments about my pronunciation. That would be ideal because that would help with the algorithm. So I just mixed the Worcestershire sauce and the salt in with the butter just to evenly distribute it. I'm just using the 1/4 teaspoon to mix it up because it's already dirty. And then I'm just going to pour that over the top. And what's going to happen here is that the cold temperature of the pumpkin seeds will solidify the butter on top, coating them, ideally. Alright, so I set this over aside for a second. And I use the bigger spoon to scrape all these out. And I'm just going to spread these out onto the aluminum foil, being sure to get all of them because we worked hard for these, and these are already, going to vanish in like 10 minutes after they're done. I don't know if you can see over there, but there's a big sploosh of pumpkin goo there, right in the center, and that's going to be the tasty bit. All right, and that's part one. Now we stick this in the oven, and I think I said on the instructions there that you want to bake them for an hour, stirring them every 15 minutes. And the reason I say that is because that's what it said on the note card where I wrote down this recipe when I called my mom late one night and said, hey, can I get the pumpkin seed recipe? And she said, okay, yes, this is what it is. And the thing is, the truth of the matter is, it's going to take more or less than an hour. You don't know. If you're doing, the more seeds you have, the longer it's going to take, because the more bunched together they're going to be. If you've got 2 pans of seeds in there going at the same time, it's going to take longer. I'm hoping because we only have half of a batch this time, it's going to take less time. But so we're going to put a pin in the food part of this right now, and I'm going to take another drink of this delicious Corpse Reviver. And we are going to move on to the second drink. Set these off to the side for right now. All right. Bring this. Actually, I don't need this right now. Oh, this is a problem when you're doing a big batch of food and you have not cleared quite enough space. You didn't hear that. Nothing said. Everything's fine. Nothing to see here. All right. So, we go to, there we go. Spiced apple cider. This is another very popular recipe that we have around here. For those who don't know, I think I mentioned this on a couple streams before, but we actually have an apple tree in our backyard. It was here when we moved in. And once a year, I go out there and, we use the apples. They're not very good apples. They're, tiny, and I don't do anything special with them to make them grow properly. So we get these tiny apples that usually have, bugs in them. And so once a year I'll go out there and I'll cut out all the parts with the bugs in them and wash them and clean them up and crush them real fine and make apple juice out of it. And we get this really nice apple, well, it's actually apple cider. And I don't know what the definition is. I think apple juice is just more purified or something to that effect. But this is technically apple cider, I believe. And not even pasteurized, straight out of the backyard. And then actually this was frozen for a couple of weeks because I didn't want it to go bad. And I'm going to make good cider out of it. Now, one trick I am going to use here, and I should say that I've got this recipe from epicurious.com originally. I actually checked on their website. They originally posted it in 2004, which is I think about when I got it. They don't provide any history for it or who the actual author is or anything, so thanks to them. But I've always really liked this one. I will say that the only tricky thing I'm doing here is I've got this, which is a tea bag. You can buy them at, I got this at Wujimaya, which is a local chain of Asian grocery stores. And basically I'm going to put all of my spices into this, and that way when you're ladling it out later, I'm not going to get half a cinnamon stick in someone's drink, and it'll just make it easier to drink later. Let's see, I'm just going to, I'll just set it in the pan for right now. Before I do that though, I'm actually going to measure. So I bought these bottles on Amazon. They said that they were a quart a piece, and I don't know, it doesn't quite look like that. So I'm actually going to measure this just to make sure. And they seal and everything, you heard that. So I like the bottles, I just want to make sure that they hold as much as they say, so we don't add too much to this. And, well, there's going to be some schmutz at the bottom, but yeah, pretty much exactly, just like a fraction under 4. I don't want to last that schmutz in, but that's close enough. So, excellent. All right. Now, again, the original recipe for this was not for 4 cups of cider, but for 4 quarts. They intended it to be enough to feed, or to, for several people, the entire huge party to drink. I've made this size, actually, well, I've done it with 8 cups of apple cider, and that fed a party of 20 for a good evening. It went for at least 3 or 4 hours, and that was with people drinking it solidly. So this is going to be enough for Lori and I, with maybe a little bit extra. So I'm going to assemble my spices here, just because I've got the thing open already, and that's just convenient. So I need 4 whole cloves. That's 4. And a lot of these ingredients you can get bulk, which is why I have them in these weird jars. And that's usually a cheaper way to do it. If you do get them that way, do put them in something that seals well. They say to rotate your spices, basically get rid of your old spices once a year. I don't do that because I'm a bad person, but it just means that they're maybe a little bit weaker than normal. So if you notice the flavors start to decline, add a little bit more or replace them then. But spices are expensive. There's a reason why colonialism happened in the Caribbean. So, don't feel too bad if you never rotate out your spices. I usually just, I don't, quite frankly. Racer X Machina, good to see you. You're right, apple juice is filtered, apple cider isn't. So, yay! I was actually right about something. Yay! Alright. So, I've got the cloves, I've got the allspice, the 4 cloves, 3 allspice, and you get 2 whole green cardamom pods crushed. Now these are about the trickiest thing to find, and you should be able to find it at like Whole Foods. And these are a little bit old because I only ever use them for this recipe. So I'm going to try and find some that will actually crush fairly easily. There we go, this one should do. Then again, last time I tried to crush these, I had a little bit more strength. Hold on a second. Alright. Good, it's out of camera shot. Alright, that was me pounding a cardamom seed with the flat of a big knife. Don't try this at home, kids. I am a trained professional idiot. Alright. Alright, here we go. Alright, and then when cinnamon stick broken, I actually found some really good cinnamon for really cheap, and so I'm going to try and use one of those tonight. Here, actually let me show you. So this is the normal cinnamon stick you'd see. I don't know if you can see that. It's basically one piece of cinnamon kind of rolled into a sort of a double tube-like shape there. And this is the cinnamon that I got. Here, let's see that and better. And notice how it's pretty much solid by comparison because it's such fine bark. That is a different kind of cinnamon, and I actually like it better. And I wish I could remember the name of it right now, but I think this is actual cinnamon, as opposed to the fake kind of cinnamon you get in the store. So basically cinnamon sticks aren't actually cinnamon bark most of the time that you get them. If you get them and they're rolled like that, they're a different tree bark that tastes exactly like cinnamon but isn't actually cinnamon. It's what everyone's kind of gotten used to thinking is cinnamon. So, but the other nice thing is this just crumbles up nicely. So you get a lot of flavor, and I've actually crumbled it a little bit into the pot instead of just into the tea bag there. And again, if someone wants to look up the name of that, I would be happy to pass it along. Alright, so that is the cinnamon stick. You can really smell that cardamom in here. Does not take a whole lot. And again, that stuff is, at this point pretty old. Anyway, with these tea bags, if you get everything inside, you just fold the little lip over the top. And there we go. And I'm just going to, it's got a little string on it, so I'm just going to loop that over the side. Then I'm going to pour in the 4 cups of apple cider. And, oh hey, I actually did remember to set the timer this time. Alright, and then we need a tablespoon of brown sugar. And, alright, well, we are not going to, here. I'm going to just wrap up the one that I mixed up the pumpkin goop with. so I don't get that all over everything. And then get my tablespoon of brown sugar. And I need to add brown sugar to the shopping list. But we've got a tablespoon. And put that right in here. There. And we do need also a tablespoon and a half of lemon juice. And that is just a really good preservative. Alright, so I'm going to squeeze out the rest of this lemon. Hopefully we can get a tablespoon and a half. And unfortunately, a tablespoon and a half is a really annoying measurement because it's a tablespoon plus a teaspoon plus half a teaspoon. So you need to dirty up all of your measuring spoons, or you can kind of wing it, and that's, I think, what I'm going to do today because I don't want to keep you here all night. Well, I do want to keep you here all night. You're lovely people, and I'm really enjoying having you all here. Thank you all for showing up. Racer X Machina says, "Oh no, I've been lied to by Big Cinnamon. How far does the cinnamon conspiracy go?" It's cinnamon all the way down. It really is. And NC She, thank you very much for joining us. Actually, Scott says it goes all the way to the top, which is it goes all the way to the top and all the way down. It's very scary. Big cinnamon is everywhere. Alright, now the only trick with this is making sure I don't get the seeds in it, because I don't have my handy filter that I normally do. So that's 1 and a half. We'll say that looks like a half. Alright. And again, because I'm that kind of person, I'm going to use this to stir things up. And we are going to just move this over to the stove here. I'm going to put it on low and put the lid back on over here. And then we're going to let that set for a while. So, and in just about under a minute, the seeds will come out. We'll stir those up, and then we'll move on to the next thing. In the meantime, this is why I started with the Corpse Reviver. Oh, NC She says Ceylon cinnamon. Thank you. That is right. And I got my glasses on. Yes, I am. It is NC She. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That is very nice. Oh, shoot. I forgot one thing. And I forgot it on the list, too. Oh, my goodness. I forgot it on the recipe. Fortunately, I remembered that we had to have it. But, so, the original, when you're making 4 quarts of this stuff, you need the peel of a orange, of a large-sized orange. Excuse me. So we're going to use the quarter of a peel of a large-sized orange, and I will get that in there just as soon as I take these seeds out. Let's see. And stir them around a little bit. And I'm sorry, it's going to be a little more chaotic than usual just because, and I say that fully cognizant of how chaotic it usually is on this show, just because I got 3 things going at once, and some of these take a little bit longer than usual, which is another reason why I want to do so many things, just so that we could keep chatting and keep talking. I couldn't not give you this pumpkin seeds recipe. This is one of the best things, one of the best recipes I know, honestly, and it's relatively simple. It's just, you can only make it a certain time of year. Well, unless Lydia finds out that you can use the seedless, or rather the shellless seeds, and then we could make it all year long. Not quite the same as having it in at Halloween though, with the nice fresh seeds. All right, so that is stirred up. We'll put it in for another 15 minutes and see how it does. My kitchen smells very strange right now here, just because first it smelled like pumpkin because I carved the pumpkin this morning. And then it smells like, or now it smells like apple spice cake, because when I made my annual apple spice cake, it overflowed into the onto the pizza stone I keep in there. So I got it all. I thought I got as much off as I could, but it still smells a little bit like that. So, all right, I'm going to try and get a full quarter of this orange peel. I'm just using a regular vegetable peeler for this. Not doing anything fancy, other than I'm going to try and get it all in one go, because then it'll be easier to fish out later. Yeah, I call that a quarter of it. Looks like about a quarter. Yeah, it's about a quarter. All right, good enough. So let's go back on the heat. Heat up. It's still cold right now, so you could actually turn up the heat a little bit, but not too much, because we don't want it to boil too badly. And yes, let's see. And see, she says, I didn't know about it until you told us. Cassia is the kind we are used to, and Ceylon is the actual cinnamon. So yeah, that's very cool. Thank you very much for looking that up, and welcome to the show. So all right, so that is spiced apple cider and pumpkin seeds. Let's see, we'll move on to the next food item, and this is peanut brittle. Now this one hopefully will go pretty quick. And remember how I was saying I've got a bunch of recipes that I normally only do certain times of year? Well, this is one of them. But this is normally a Christmas cookie that I make, or Christmas candy that I make. And one of the main reasons I only do it at Christmas is because it vanishes really fast. Did I move over to? Yeah, I did move over to peanut butter. Okay. Sorry, I have so many recipes in there that OBS is giving me issues today. Or well, it's acting in different ways than it normally does. Anyway, so yeah. Now, peanut brittle, normally you think is going to be a pain in the butt, because you have to, I actually don't know entirely how it is. You have to heat up the sugar and everything just so that it, is nice and crunchy when it's done, but you don't burn the peanuts and this, that, and the other. This is all done in the microwave, and it takes about 10 minutes. So this one should be ideally, this is the only way I would ever make peanut brittle. It's really nice. But it is fairly intensive, so I'm going to actually have to concentrate for a change. So let's see. Oh, by the way, one thing for those out there who are new to long hair like I am, pigtails look super cute, but they don't do a whole lot to keep your hair off the back of your neck, so you still get warm and the hair still gets in your way. So, Racer X Machina says, my grandfather made awesome peanut brittle. Weather humidity makes a difference, if I recall correctly. Oh, he didn't use a microwave. That explains a lot. Yeah. So again, this is another recipe I got from my mom. No idea where she got it. Probably the newspaper. I don't know. I got it from her in a text file. Let's put it this way: the copy of the recipe I have from her is on the type of printer paper that was all one big long thing, and you had to tear it off, and then you had to tear the strips off the side that had all the holes in it. So yeah, it's pretty old. Anyway, can't copyright a recipe, so we can use it. All right. All right. Dot matrix printer paper. Yes, that is what it is. It was actually dot matrix. I thought that paper was used for laser printers at the time too, but I don't remember. I am in fact old. All right. One note on these peanuts. Raw peanuts with the skins on are getting harder and harder to find, even around Christmas time. So I've been using, I went to, again, well, it was to an Asian grocery store. It wasn't Wujimaya this time. Wujimaya, not a sponsor, but could be if they wanted to be. So look at Asian grocery stores. They're a little bit easier to find there, and they have them all year round as opposed to just at Christmas like some of the other stores. Lydia Ray says, one of my chores as a kid was peeling the edges off reams of that stuff. Yeah, I'm so much, printer technology has improved. Although I was seeing somewhere that a big sign of millennials and the generations after them is that they don't own printers. And okay, it's not, I get a lot of use out of mine. I like to print out my notes and stuff, and so I'm old enough that I like having hard copies still of things, because I know that if I didn't, then my phone would explode halfway through one of these episodes and I'd be completely lost. So, alright, so we're in a cup and a half of these. Now, in theory, you can use any nut you like, and that's 3 half cups, so, but you want them to be raw, because they're gonna cook while they're in the microwave. So, I've always used raw peanuts. I couldn't find these for a while, and I'd forgotten the going to the Asian grocery store trick. So I briefly considered some raw cashews, and you could make cashew brittle. But the thing is, then you probably have to adjust the time that it's in the microwave. You might have to adjust the time that's in the microwave as is, because some microwaves are stronger or weaker than others. When we moved to this house, or actually when we bought our new microwave, I had to adjust all the times a little bit. Your first batch is probably going to be a trial batch, just to make sure that the times work with your microwave. If you do need to add or subtract time, add it to the first and second steps, or divide it up between those two. So, like, you can see that it says mix the first 4 ingredients and microwave for 3.5 minutes. Well, that used to be 4 minutes, and then before that, I think it was like 3 minutes, and then it's been all over the place. So just play around with the times, but that's where I would recommend fiddling with it. If the nuts in the peanut brittle the nuts are really the big clue as to if you've overcooked it or undercooked it. If the nuts are brown in there, and I realize I'm doing a lot of talking about nuts for a trans girl, but stick with me on this one. If the nuts end up too brown, then you just back off on the time. If they taste a little raw still, up the time a little bit. This is the time that works with my microwave. And I think it's a good middle section. So, a good middle of the road for this. So, we're going to add 1 cup of sugar. My canisters over here. Alright. And also, I imagine you might be able to find raw peanuts with the shells on Amazon, because we always like to support our small, struggling local businesses here. Alright, so that is a cup of sugar and a cup and a half of raw peanuts. So we're going to add a half cup of light corn syrup. And actually, I need to get a spatula out here for this. Alright, so this is a plunger. I've used it on shows before. Get yourself one of these if for everything. Basically, if you have to measure out semi-sticky liquids like molasses or oyster sauce or anything that's going to cling to the edges of a cup and be problematic to get out, use this for. And this stuff fits that bill. So I'm just going to measure out a half cup of this. And yes, this is, this is corn syrup. Not the best thing in the world for you. There's another reason why I try to only do this once a year. But you can't have a Halloween show without candy in it. And this is a candy, so... What was I going to do? Go buy some? Where's the, that's not really in the spirit of the show. So, all right. Move this up a little bit now that I've measured it, just to keep it from spilling over the sides, and just plunge it right out. Plungers are super handy. I used to have the official Alton Brown plungers, and the only reason I stopped using them is because they were not dishwasher washable. So, oh, Lori says mayo is also good to measure out in the plunger. Yes, absolutely. So, all right, and then we need a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Which here's my own. Again, Alton Brown salt cellar because I am a fangirl, unabashed fangirl. Though I have not watched any of his stuff in a while. Not for any particular reason, just haven't. Really need to start again. Alright, so that is peanuts, sugar, light corn syrup, and salt. And that's all we're going to do here. We are going to have her stir it all together. And this is a big sticky mess. So I do have a spoon rest over there, which I'd normally be using to rest the spatula on, but it's being taken up by some other things. And I actually do have some other spoon rests over there that I have a couple bottles, or a bottle of wine and probably some garlic sitting on, but I use them as bottle rests instead. So I'm just going to grab a plate here to set this really sort of nasty spatula on. And I know I've been kind of plowing through all this stuff. Does anyone have any questions about any of the recipes I've done tonight? They look good. I had someone earlier tonight tell me that the Corpse Reviver was their favorite drink, so I don't know their Twitch handle, so maybe they're watching now. Have you ever had one before? What do you think of them? Do you like peanut brittle? Like I say, there's a lot of smoke here. Don't make me monologue all night. Actually, you've been really great. I'm so happy that everyone here has shown up. I really appreciate it. Actually, I'm going to put this in for 3 minutes and then 3.5 minutes. And then but in the meantime, let's talk because I have 3 things going right now, and that is more than I really should have going at any one time. So, Lydia says, Alton Brown's peanut brittle recipe is long, enduring nightmare. Like 4 hours of work. Yeah, no, I say no to that. That is not something I will be doing. So, yes, this is much easier. I mean, I'm sure his is much more authentic and maybe even tastier. This stuff disappears faster than I can make it. And I can make it pretty fast. So, I am moving things around, by the way, because the pumpkin seeds are about to come out again. and I am going to have to stir those up. I'm also getting things ready because the first, so I'm putting it in there to microwave for 3.5 minutes, and then I'm going to take it out, stir it up, and then microwave it for another 3.5 minutes. After that, I need to add some butter and vanilla to it, and then microwave it for another 1.5 minutes, then add baking soda to it, and pour it out onto a ungreased cookie sheet. All right, so that is for the pumpkin seeds, and they're starting to dry out a little bit. When these are all done, you can see they're starting to get a little darker too. When these are all done, they will be dry as pretty much dry as a bone, and maybe a little bit of butter still on them. And that's actually one of the ways they're browning right now, is the butter on them is actually browning. And I don't know if you can see this, but I'm kind of, let me see if I can move this back just a little bit so you can get it more on camera. I'm kind of making a pile out of them and then spreading them back out again. That's because I want to get the butter and Worcestershire sauce and salt evenly distributed over them. And so on. Okay. And the seeds may shrink down a little bit, but not very much. If you get those really thin papery seeds, then they will basically be paper thin when they're done, even more thin than they were when they came out of the pumpkin. All right, put those in for another 15 minutes. The peanut brittle's got another 30 seconds to go here before I mix it up. Yeah, Racer X Machina says traditional peanut brittle is not easy. It really isn't. That's like I say, this is the only way I would ever consider doing it, and I wouldn't have even considered it if I hadn't gotten the recipe from my mom. So, and Lydia Ray says, I love Corpse Survivors, but never had this one before. But includes absence, so I'll take 7 at the next con. Lydia is one of our good friends. Actually, just about everyone there is good friends. But Lydia is one of the people who comes to gaming conventions with us, as is Sandy. And so that's the convention she's talking about. Lori and I think I showed you the LARP writing book that we published. If not, if Lori wants to bring it in here, I will show it off later on, but it's in my office right now. Anyway, we run live-action role-playing games and tabletop role-playing games at some game conventions down in California, Bay Area of California. All right. So all I did is scrape the sides, mix things up, make sure all of that solid sugar got mixed in with the liquid there. And, yep, and now put it back in. The peanut brittle, I don't want it to cool off too much, but let's see if I can lift it up for you. Oh, sorry, that's there. This, by the way, I'm using a ceramic bowl because microwave. That's how it looks right now. So you can see still, everything's still clear, white, just not very cooked at all. But anyway, this all gets very, very hot as this process goes on. So, all right, so that's gonna go for another 3.5 minutes. Again, I'm not gonna distract myself with another thing. I will check in on the apple cider though and stir it around a little bit. Now, all we really need to do is heat this up and make sure that that sugar that we put in there is dissolved. Of course, with that much liquid and that little amount of sugar, it dissolves pretty quickly. But I'm just going to make sure that the seasonings get infused in there. And that's really what we're doing right now, is infusing the seasonings in there. I am running out of places to put things. All right. So here I'll put the ladle for the apple cider with the peanut brittle. What could possibly go wrong? All right. So Winter Vespers. My sweetheart and I met at a science fiction convention. Nice. Yeah, I don't know. I've never been a huge. I like science fiction conventions. I actually went to San Diego Comic-Con once. Oh, my tablet has just figured out that I have mail. So if you hear any more bings, that's what it's from. It's Twitter telling me that transphobes aren't actually bad people. Anyway, oh, I will get that out in a minute. Anyway, yeah, no, I love science fiction conventions are great. I think that my problem was I went to them before I was diagnosed with ADHD, and so they felt a little more passive in that, it was great. It's like, you'd see all this stuff, and it was either so much it was overwhelming to me, or I would get fidgety. And gaming conventions, I'm always gaming, so I love science fiction conventions, but I don't often go to them. So, but I'm glad that you enjoy them, and you met your sweetheart there, so gotta be great. Let's see, Lydia, actually. Winter Vesper says, things have changed, I expect. We met in the early 80s. So yes, they probably have. They've gotten a lot more crowded, for one thing. At least the big ones have. The big Comic-Cons and such. We actually went to one of the early PAXs here. We actually ran a LARP at an early PAX, which was a disaster, and I'll tell you about it another time. We went to that one. I think we went to one other, and then didn't really, haven't really been back. And then we saw on the news the lines of the people out the doors and so on. It's just, they've gotten huge. Let's see, Lydia says, our microwave kills our Wi-Fi. I think it just popped in and out. Oops. Alright, well, if you missed anything, let me know. I'll try and catch you up. Alright, so, it's now been in for 7 minutes. So, as you can imagine, it is pretty dang hot. It is, in fact, boiling right now. So this is what it looks like here. See it boiling away? You can smell the cooked peanuts in there. And again, and really I should have had this ready. Before I stir that up, I'm going to add the butter. And you just add 1 teaspoon, not a tablespoon. Remember, butter is measured in tablespoons on the packaging there. So you put that in, and we need 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Now, be careful here. It's going to boil the liquid off really fast. And also, these nuts look very cooked already. I'm going to put it in. I think I'll put it in for a minute after this. I don't know if you can hear this, but yeah, all the alcohol in the vanilla is boiling off now. So I'm going to mix this in quickly here. Yeah, these nuts are looking already really cooked. So yeah, I'm going to cut down that time. Should probably cut it down to about half a minute, but I'm going to put it in for a minute just to make sure. Yeah. Alright, so that is that. Now, can't talk this time because I need to get this ready for the last stage here. So I am going to get out. Let's see. No, it is a greased. I'm sorry if I said ungreased cookie sheet before. I believe it is a greased one. So I'm just going to use some Pam here. Spray this on here really lightly. Just want it lightly greased. And then I need to quickly wash this tablespoon or teaspoon here. Dry that off. Because we want to add a teaspoon of baking soda. And when I do that, it's going to foam up like crazy. And that's when you want to pour it out. All right. So, I probably could have gone for the extra half minute here, but those nuts look pretty darn dark already, so now it smells like it's ready to go. So, if not, a little overdone. So I'm just pouring that out, stirring it in. And it is going to be, like I say, you want to make sure you don't have any lumps of that there, lumps of baking soda, but it is foaming up. What you want to do is then just pour that out onto your cookie sheet. All right, now I'm gonna have to wash these pot holders, but frequently have to after this recipe. And you just want to get as much of that out before it hardens up as possible. It is pretty warm still, so, but it's already solidifying. And the bigger a mass you get, the more fluid it's going to stay. You can see I'm pulling off sort of strands of sugar there, and you want to avoid that as much as possible because those can actually get into the air and cause problems. Not only by just making everything sticky, but if they get fine enough, you can breathe them in, and that's a problem. So I'm going to use this knife I used for the butter earlier, sort of scrape off some bits, kind of keep the last little bit separate. I got most of it out of there. It will dissolve very quickly with water. So, just stick it in the sink when you're done and it will be good. And yeah, there's a couple nuts that I didn't get out, but I think we can live with that. All right, so make room in the sink for that because it is still very, very hot. And we just let this cool now. So as you can see, this is our big plate of peanut brittle. So Winter Vesper says that looks yummy, and Lydia Ray says I want brittle, and you can make some, Lydia. I'm not driving all the way down to California to do that. Racer Ex Machina says, actually there was an earlier conversation I should relay to the audience on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. They imprint that into your brain. You can't not say it. All right, so Racer Ex Machina says, last time I went to SDCC, the biggest guest was Rumiko Takahashi. Hollywood had zero presence in those days. Yeah, one of my big weaknesses is I do not know anime. Lori does not like anime. So for at least the last 20 years, I have really not watched anime. So I'm not actually sure who that is. So, all right. Lydia says, I would love to do a really big fan convention someday or do the Star Trek cruise. That sounds like fun. I actually saw there was a an X-Men experience that someone's doing at an actual like school in, I think it's in Minnesota, but it's basically you show up and are students at Xavier's school. It seemed like a pretty cool thing. I actually put Xandra Zero onto it because she is a huge X-Men fan. Again, she's a trans DJ, so EXMAN. One of her jokes. Anyway, but also a big X-Men fan. Also, if you haven't seen Xandra Zero, check out her shows on Twitch. Amazing DJ, does a lot of fun stuff. Always like to support another trans lady out there trying to make some good stuff. So, all right. Lydia says, she had said, I want Brittle, and then she said, and when I suggested she could make it herself, she says that she's not competent though, but I just showed you everything you need. You just, I'll put the recipe up on YouTube after this, and you can just watch it as many times as you need, just do exactly what I do, and it'll turn out fine. This is going to take a while to cool down, so let me, oh, and I, of course, let my apple cider boil, which is something I was trying to avoid, but it's okay, it doesn't really matter, doesn't really affect it much. Actually, it pasteurizes it. There's a certain, pasteurization happens at a certain temperature and pressure. Basically, the more pressure it's under, the less time you have to boil it. I'm not sure it actually got to, if it's boiling, it's probably pretty close to pasteurized. So, but doesn't matter because I drank that apple juice just straight out of the press and I'm fine. Let's, however, have some after we handle the seeds, which are now going to go. All right, put it on this side. I will grab one of the very sticky things here. I'm just gonna put this just a little bit further out of camera. Bring the seeds back. And now we're getting somewhere. All right, these are starting to get a little drier, a little browner, a little more done. They still have a fair bit of oil on them, which hopefully will come off in the next time I put them in. And I should have used the heavy duty aluminum foil for this because I am tearing it. I'm gonna have to wash this cookie sheet when we're done. But you can kind of hear them rattling around there because they're starting to get dry and a little more solid. Again, I'm just piling them up, mixing up, making sure the liquid that's on there is evenly distributed so it can dry easier. And, all right, fine, this will stay over here. Okay. Also, if you would like to contribute to the Dana Needs a Bigger Kitchen Fund, there is a tip button. I joke, I'm happy just to have you here. Any money you donate will be spent incredibly irresponsibly. But if you're watching on YouTube, there is a little button for my Ko-Fi page. If you're watching here on the stream and have money that you want me to waste for you on booze and women, then you should type !tip, but don't, because there are people out there. All right, we could use some money right now, but that's not the point. The point is I'm happy to have you here, and that's the whole thing. So, all right, Corpse Survivor. So I have to say, at the end of last episode, I basically put up the thing for tips and mentioned it, and I just felt dirty afterwards because just about everyone here is my friend. or someone I know that I really like, and I'm just happy to have you here. So I know it's part of the whole Twitch culture and all of that, and booze isn't cheap, but still, I'm just happy to have you here. Never think you have to tip. All right, so here is our apple cider. And here's the glass for it. So I'm just using a nice glass mug. You can use any kind of mug you want. And as you can see, it is going to also be very hot because I let it boil. But just want to spoon this up. Now, obviously, this is non-alcoholic, and I'm actually going to drink it non-alcoholically. And actually, I'm only going to fill this up a little. Well, I'll fill it up the full way so you get the picture. But if you would like it to be an alcoholic drink, apple cider itself, and this stuff especially, pairs amazingly well with bourbon, and even not very expensive bourbon. I would not pour the good stuff into this because the flavor is going to be mostly overwhelmed by the cider. But yeah, I actually have a bottle of Jim Beam over there that I can add later on if we decide we want to. And of course, I did not set the timer for the pumpkin seeds again. Dang it, I was doing so well. All right, so let me show you what the cider looks like here. Scroll down. There it is. There we go. I mean, it looks like spice cider. It's, still brown, still... You can, if you want, put a cinnamon stick in there. That is going to... the only downside to doing that, it looks pretty, it's very festive, smells great, but it is going to add more and more cinnamon flavor to it over time. So I usually don't. Also, when you're trying to take a sip, you get a nose full of cinnamon stick. It just, bonks you in the face. It's kind of just gets in the way, really. You could put a bit of orange peel in there as well if you want it to look fancy. If I were, taking a glamour shot of this to post somewhere, I would put the cinnamon stick and maybe an orange peel in there. Just for drinking, I'm not going to bother. All right, so I think I had food 2 up. Well, this is here. We'll go back to this spice cider because that's what this is. Now, this is going to be probably too hot to drink right now. Oh, I'll burn my tongue. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to read what people say. Racer X Machina says, rum and apple cider isn't bad either. And I can absolutely believe that. Actually, I'm kind of wondering how a nice dark rum in this might be. I've always gone with bourbon just because that's... For some reason, bourbon and apple tend to go well together in my head. And, if I only get this a few times a year, I don't want to, I don't want to experiment that much. But yeah, I will definitely give that a try. Lydia Ray says rum and bourbon are both the very best additives. I can agree with that. And Winter Vespers says cheers, and cheers to you, Winter Vespers. So here. Yes, very, very hot. It's amazing. It's autumn in a glass. It's, this is what you want on a cold winter evening or cold autumn evening, when you're, watching trick-or-treaters come in, or when you're taking your trick-or-treaters around the block. It's apple and spices and just really good. It's one of the better apple ciders I've ever had. I will say I have had this. If you serve it at a party, serve it in something that's gonna keep it warm. Uh, so there are chafing dishes and other things you can use to keep drinks hot and all that. I use a fondue pot, and it is the perfect size and perfect shape and perfect vessel for that. They usually come with lids that you can put on. They just work really well. The one thing I will say about that is you have to control the temperature just right, because I have had them at a party, especially as the volume of liquid in there goes down, the temperature tends to rise a little bit more, and by the end of the evening, it's practically syrup, which is amazing with bourbon. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is definitely, it is definitely different. This is good just by itself. And considering the Corpse Reviver and the next drink I'm going to make, I think I'm going to leave this undoctored for now. If you want me to add something to it to let you know how it tastes, I will be happy to do so. I have 3 different rums over here that I'd be happy to add. But, or I also have the bottle of Jim Beam sitting over in the corner just in case. But I'm going to let this cool a bit. I'm going to finish up my Corpse Reviver. And then we're going to get started on the last drink of the evening, because the pumpkin seeds need to finish cooking. The peanut brittle needs to finish cooling. Let me see here. This is not the right spatula for this job. That's good, because that was for the pumpkin seeds anyway. All right. So you want a thin metal spatula, and maybe I did not grease this enough. Nope, there it goes. And you can just run this around the edges. And you can see it's still a little bit flexible there. And you want it to be basically solid and brittle. Now what I should go back and talk a little bit more about this. Let me actually jump over here. When I added the baking powder, or baking soda, sorry, not baking powder, baking soda, basically it did what baking soda is supposed to do and created a bunch of little air bubbles. That's how you get bread to rise and so on and so forth. And that's what it did here, is it created a ton of air bubbles really fast, which gave it almost, if you know what sea foam is, the candy sea foam, that kind of texture almost. But it basically made it, I don't want to say light because it's not super light, but it made it a lot more airy, and that will make it a lot more brittle, a lot more easy to break. It's not going to be super heavy duty solid peanut brittle. It's actually a lot easier to eat, a lot easier to to enjoy, I think. So I just wanted to explain that bit. That's why it kind of looks like it does. You're going to have a lot of air bubbles in there, sort of towards the surface. This is not maybe the best one I've made for that reason, but sometimes you do get those air bubbles, sometimes you don't. Or rather, you will always get air bubbles. You may not get big ones towards the surface. I'm starting to go a little crazy. Where's that knife? All right, so things cooling, things cooking. This will be the 4th thing that I've got going at the same time. Let's start the zombie. All right. So, at least I'll give you the history of the zombie while I'm waiting for everything else to go. Here. All right, where is it? There it is. All right, the zombie. All right. This drink is kind of infamous. Even if you don't know much about cocktails. My beautiful wife says starting, as in I'm starting to get mad? No, no. I married you 20 years ago, so it started then? It's hard to say. Anyway, so even if you don't know much about cocktails, you've probably heard of the zombie because it is a classic tropical drink. Longtime viewers of the show know that I have a prohibition on tiki drinks until I can put together a good explanation for why I should do tiki drinks. And basically, tiki drinks are problematic. I try not to even say that word. I try and refer to them as tropical drinks to separate them out from the colonialism and appropriation and all of that terrible stuff, the exoticism that comes with it. I almost didn't do this one because of that rule, but if you put Chekhov's Corpse Reviver down in the first act, you kind of have to come in with a zombie in the third act, so, or in this case, the fifth act. So, again, please take some time to look up why tiki culture is problematic, beyond just the obvious. That's all I'm going to say on it. So, the original recipe was developed by Don Beach, who's famous for having the restaurant Don the Beachcomber. It is actually known as Don the Beachcomber. Now, he was also very secretive about his drinks, as everyone was at the time, because once he started off, Trader Vic was soon to follow, and a bunch of other tiki magnates, let's call them. And again, I shouldn't be using that word, but it's the descriptive one, and I'm sorry. So, for a long time, no one actually knew how to make this. That kind of drink fell out of popularity in, I want to say the 70s, and didn't really come back until recently. Shall we show the other cat on camera while I'm doing this? Okay, hold on. Hello. Yes. All right, we showed Becky earlier, so this is Lily. She will be here while I give this talk. Unless she wants to go back to her mama. No, she wants to explore the peanut brittle is what she wants. Anyway, there is a author whose book I can now not hold up, but his name is Jeff Barry, and he's colloquially known as Beach Bum Barry, and he is sort of a historian of tiki culture, really cocktail culture from the 40s through the 60s, I want to say. He actually has an incredible book detailing the rum trade and all of the problems that it caused in the Caribbean, called Potions of the Caribbean. It's an excellent book. I highly recommend it. I'm going to hand her back to her mama. The relevant book here, though, is this one. It's called Sippin' Safari, and I will talk more about that as I deal with the pumpkin seeds, which hopefully will be done now. Yes, they are done. Maybe they're not done. All right, so this is what our pumpkin seeds look like. As you can see, just a little more than golden brown, dry as a bone. There's actually, a little bit of oil on there, but don't worry about that. That's just leftover butter. Lori is making the grabby hands at these right now. So I am now, again, these will also need to cool a bit before eating, but not really that much. So, but yeah, these are very much done and should be nice and crispy. All right, so Beach Bum Berry, in his book Sippin' Safari, does a really good job of tracking down old recipes from menus from ages ago. Um, this one, he has an entire chapter on getting the recipe for this. The original one was from, well, the original recipe they found was from 1937, and it was then different than the one that someone claimed was given to them by Don Beach for a barbecue cookbook that he did, which was like a handmade, self-published thing. But he tracked down that one too, and that was from the 1940s. The recipe I'm using is the one from 1956, and it's this is the one that was published in Cabaret Quarterly in 1956, and they claimed that Don the Beachgoer gave them the actual recipe, and this is a lot closer to the recipe that he eventually got from the bartender who actually worked there and actually had the notebook with the recipe in it from 1937. So that's, it's clearly an evolution from that one. And like we say, he liked to tinker with these things. So that's the one I'm going to use just because I had all the ingredients for, well, I had most of the ingredients for this, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And the original 1937 one had some sort of weird things to it. It uses something called Don's Mix, which is half grapefruit juice and half spices number 4. And he had to track down what spices number 4 was. Turns out it was made in this chemical factory where the bartender would just show up and ask for spices number 2 and spices number 4, and the chemist there would put some things into a mixing machine, and it would basically take stuff out of a safe, put it into a mixing machine, and it would do its thing, and then he would hand a couple bottles to the bartender who would take them back to the bar. That's how secretive Don Beach and Trader Vic were at the time. Now, unfortunately, that place went out of business sometime in the 60s, and Barry tried to track those down and figure out what it was. The bartender who gave him the recipe didn't know, and so he asked another bartender. Turns out spices number 4 was a cinnamon syrup. So that's what that was, but this doesn't use any of that. This is a different recipe. I am going to have to clear some space here to make all this work, but we will, as I'm doing that, we will go over what we've done today. I waxed poetically about the Corpse Survivor number 2 so far. The apple cider is now cooled to a perfect temperature. Warm but not too hot. And that cinnamon and the spices just warms you up from the inside. I don't really need to be warmed up anymore, but it just feels right for this time of year. It feels like something you would take to, your kid's soccer game when it's cold and wet, and you drink a cup of this and it perks you right back up. So I'm going to grab a bowl to pour these seeds into, and we'll talk about them. And nice thing about doing this on foil is you can just pick it up and just slide them all in there. And for the most part anyway. And these did end up a little bit oilier than normal, so I think I may have miscounted what 3/4 of a tablespoon of butter was, but they're still going to be really good, and they're not going to sit around long enough for that to be a problem. Alright, so let me give these a try. And in theory, I could have put them in for another 5 or 10 minutes, and that would have burned off some of the oil. But I didn't want to risk over cooking them, so they're crunchy and flavorful. If anything, I may have undersalted them a little bit. I may have actually end up adding a little more salt to them. But just really, really good. And you can see, so that sort of orangey stuff, I don't know if you can actually see this on camera, it dries out to sort of a brown, crispy bits that are the best part. So, and this is perfect for just sitting, watching Halloween specials, watching horror films if you're into that. You just eat them like popcorn. So good. Again, this is the sort of thing that you can dial up or dial down the amount of salt, the amount of Worcestershire sauce, that sort of thing. So make them with the recipe. If it doesn't have quite enough flavor, add a little more salt, add a little more Worcestershire sauce, and let me know what you think. So, all right. And yeah, it's still pretty clean, so I'm going to just put that away. If I got any oil on there. I did. Something wet there. Oh, I think that's from the shaker I had set there earlier. Just clean that up. Alright, I think peanut brittle's still cooling. I think that's probably good enough. Alright, so yeah, it's warm, but it's not too bad. So, were I not doing this on a live stream, what I would do is I'd grab a plastic bag, like a gallon plastic bag, feed one end of the big slab of peanut brittle in, and just from the outside of the bag, just break it into chunks. But I would wait till it was completely 100% cool, so you did not get any moisture inside the bag, because any moisture will make it softer, and therefore, go stale, but also just be not as good. So since I don't have time to let that cool all the way, I am going to break off a chunk of this and let you know how it is, and then I'll wash my hands after. You see, it just breaks down nice like that. So, Darth Christoph says hola Lily. Ska says meow meow. Perfect mew, or Lydia says perfect mew. Winter Vespers says we are super adorbs. Yes, Lily is adorable, which is why we don't kill her, because she is a tiny little monster. So, all right, here. I don't know if you could hear that crunch on camera, but it is incredibly crunchy. The peanuts are cooked really well. I probably could have gotten away with that extra half minute, but like I say, these peanuts seem to brown a little faster than the ones I've had in the past. Maybe they're a little smaller or something like that. So I'm pretty happy with where they ended up. The brittle part is, salt, like really crunchy caramel. It's, it's basically browned sugar that's, taken solid form. It is light and airy. It will stick in your teeth while you're eating it, so I'm going to finish this piece and not have more. Although I will move it to a location where Lori can sneak in and grab some, should she want to. Lydia says, heard and witnessed, and Scott said, sounds good. So apparently you could hear that on the microphone. Good, good. But yeah, it is exactly what peanut brittle should be, in my opinion. And it may be that I haven't had real, properly made peanut brittle the way Alton Brown does. But frankly, this is what I like. It's really good, and it's, as you saw, it took about 10 minutes, well, plus cooling time to make. So not very hard. Does require a little bit of concentration just to have everything prepped for the next time it comes out of the microwave. But other than that, it's, not too bad. I have my ADHD meds wore off a while ago, and I still managed to do it while also handling the pumpkin seeds. So. All right. Let me move this off camera here. Lori did bring in our book, which available at Amazon. Just search for my name, and it should come up. Art on the cover there, done by our very own Lydia here in the chat. So she's an amazing artist. Do you have a you have an Etsy site? I know, or you did at one point. I don't know if you're still keeping that updated. Do you have anything you want to plug, Lydia? Because she is an amazing artist, and she did that for way less than actually I think you contributed it, which is outstanding. And we actually have the original now as a gift from her up in our bedroom, and it is one of our most prized possessions because it is gorgeous. Yeah. Oh yes. Lori points out that Racer Ex Machina did some of the interior art as well. Lots of great people did amazing art for that book. So I mean, it's worth it for the art alone. But also the game stuff in there is pretty good too. Lydia says that she is on Instagram at Lydia Ray, which is L-Y... Let me take off my glasses so I don't mess this up. Lydierae. So, check her stuff out. Racer Ex Machina, do you have anything you want to plug? As a thank you, A, for showing up, but also for doing that. Anyone, if anyone out there has anything they want to plug, this is a plug-friendly zone, especially since I've had drinks and good, candy and stuff like that. So I am in a great mood. Also, thank you all again for showing up. I really appreciate it. This has been a fantastic stream so far, and we're not done yet. Lydia Ray says, and the new ways to torture your friends are in the book. Yes, it is, if you're, the live action role playing in that book is can be done for street LARPs, but it's more for conventions. Well, actually it's for both, because we've used that system for both. It's not the kind where you hit people with padded swords and stuff. It's more like, some of the ones we've run are closer to more how to host a mystery kind of thing. So, wow, I've done a lot of plugging of my own stuff tonight. Let's get back to the zombie to knock me unconscious here. So, let's start talking about the ingredients for this. It starts off with 3 kinds of rum. Let's get this back. I'll throw away those. So we've got our 3 kinds of rum. It also requires maraschino liqueur. Not the same thing as you get in maraschino cherries, unless your maraschino cherries are really good, but even then it's going to have other stuff in it. This is actually a type of liqueur from, I believe, Italy, made from a very specific kind of cherry, which I didn't write down this time. So, all that. We then have pineapple juice, grapefruit juice, lime juice, and it's got falernum, which is a It's basically a spice syrup. I don't know what all is in here. Let's see. Barbados in a bottle. Exotic aromatic liqueur was invented on the island. Blah, 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 blah. All right. So basically, you can make your own falernum as a syrup to just by itself. This has a little bit of alcohol in it. It's what? It's 11% alcohol, which keeps it shelf stable. Because otherwise, it would just go bad over time. This will keep good forever. But anyway, so we've got falernum added in as well, and then we've got grenadine, and we've got bitters, and we've got Pernod. So this is one of the bigger recipes we've ever done here. It's 11 ingredients, which is why I don't have everything on the list, and I hope you can read that recipe because I had to squeeze everything in. Alright, now the other thing that's going to be a first here on this show is that it is a blender drink. It's actually still pretty clean. So I'm going to have to clear things up a bit so I can get the blender out. I say, for some reason, having 5 dishes on the, or 5 things that I'm making on the show instead of 3 has created an exponential number of dishes. Alright, I feel bad for whoever has to clean up this kitchen. So, let's see. Alright, one other note here. Normally, I try and order the list of ingredients in order of least expensive to most expensive, so that if you mess up along the way, then you're not out as much money. This time I didn't do that. It was all I could do to get those 11 items on the page, and I just didn't think about it until now. So we'll have to survive. This is, by the way, a blender drink of sorts. So, and I will talk more about that in a bit, but we're going to build it in the blender. So no shaker, no nothing. Just make sure that's on tight. And, alright, well, I'll get to that in a minute. And I'm going to get everything out here. There's just so that when it is time, I can just add everything together. This is our tropical drink mug today. It seemed appropriate for Halloween. And grab this for a minute. I'll talk about that then. Alright, so here is this. We're going to start with 1.5 ounces of gold rum. I am using Bacardi here. You're supposed to use, if I remember right, a Jamaican rum, but to do tropical drinks correctly, you need about 18 different rums. And I have a very small house. So I have one of each kind of rum and maybe one extra of the dark rum, and that's what we've got. That's what we're working with today. And so this is not going to be the perfect zombie. I'm going to get as close as I can. So, 1.5 ounces of your gold rum as your elbow gets slightly steamed by the pumpkin there. Then we need 1 ounce of dark rum. I don't remember if they specify which dark rum. To make up for the lower quality Bacardis that I'm using today, I am going to use the Old Lahaina Premium Dark Rum. It's my favorite dark rum. It's packed with flavor. It's not probably what they were calling for here, but I like it and I think it's going to go great. And I have mentioned this on another show. This is just, it happens to be a good dark rum. Don't go looking for it in your local liquor store because it's only sold in Hawaii, unless you, of course, your local liquor store is in Hawaii. But there are many amazing rums out there. Feel free. Other people know rums better than I do. I'm not going to try and make any recommendations, except that if you're in Hawaii, pick up some Old Lahaina. I really like it. So now we're supposed to use a 151 proof Demerara rum, and Demerara just means it's made with cane juice as opposed to molasses. And I only have one bottle of 151 in the house, and that's Bacardi, which I don't think they even make anymore, which is how old this bottle is and shows you how fast I go through 151. So once this is done, I will probably buy a bottle of Lemon Heart, which is apparently the new standard for 151s, especially for this kind of drink. So we're going to add an ounce of this because it's what we've got. All right, so that is the rum section of the program. We'll add 3/4 of an ounce of the maraschino or maraschino. Again, feel free to start an argument in the comments or in the chat as to my pronunciation. All right. Now 1.5 ounces of pineapple juice. For pineapple juice, Trader Joe's makes an excellent one. I've used it before on the show here. What I normally use is these little cans of Dole, and it's not ideal. It's, ideally you would get a pineapple and squeeze some juice out of it. But this stuff keeps in the refrigerator forever. It's 6 ounces in here. So you can make, a few cocktails with it, and then you don't waste some if you're only making one. So it's not a bad thing, and my fingernails are actually a little on the short side now because I broke one off. We went over the saga of me breaking off a nail last time, so we won't rehash it here, but 1.5 ounces of pineapple juice. And I will also admit, I don't think I have honestly ever had I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember if I have ever actually had a zombie before. I must have. I used to make them for a gentleman who came to our parties. Summer, I used to ask, what kind of cocktails he wanted, or what cocktail he wanted, and it would always say a zombie. I'm like, fine, but that's the only drink I'm making for you tonight. It was not this recipe either. I was using a more simplified one. But I must have ordered one when I was out at some point. But honestly, I can't remember. So this will be another one of those surprises for me. Now, what I'm doing now is squeezing out a grapefruit juice because here's the thing. I really like grapefruit and grapefruit juice. I'm not supposed to drink it because I'm on blood pressure medication, and I don't think I'm on any right now that are contraindicated, but they might be. So if I keel over, like and subscribe. But this is how committed I am to all of you and to my craft, if you can call this my craft. All right. And it goes 1/2 ounce of freshly squeezed grapefruit juice, because if I'm going to actually use grapefruit juice, I'm going to actually freshly squeeze it. Also, I didn't want to buy a big thing of grapefruit juice and then have it go to waste. All right, so lime juice now. And I'm going to try and just squeeze this right into the shot glass. This is going to be probably a giant mess, but let's see what I can do here. I don't have my handy dandy funnel trick. Should probably have just brought over the funnel of my other shaker, but alright. It's kind of working here. It's going to take me a minute. I suppose I could also have used the citrus squeezer I have, and that would have gone right in there. But, well, too late for that now. Almost done. Also would have gone a lot faster. Alright. And Lily's crying in the background. So, excellent. Alright, 3/4 ounce of lime juice in there. Alright, nearly done here. Alright, so next is falernum, 1/4 ounce. Oh shoot, this is, let me cinch that down more. It looks like it's starting to leak a little bit. This is an old blender, so I don't think it'll throw things off too much. 1/4 ounce. And it is leaking. Shoot. Should have made it in a glass and then poured it all in. But I don't think. I'll just go quick. Alright. 1/4 teaspoon grenadine. Or 1/4 teaspoon of grenadine. So that's just a splash. Pour that in. I'm not going to measure that because we're trying to go fast at this point. Alright. Then 2 dashes of Angostura bitters. And it's, yeah, that's about right. And then 6 drops of Pernod. Well, you know, I happen to have a 1 ounce syringe handy, just for no reason whatsoever, so let's use that. And then, let's see if I can get this out here. Did I get some? No, I didn't. Yep, got some. Alright. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This is sterile, so I can put it back. And it's not like, well, anyway. Sterile, clean, first time use. Alright, now 3 ounces of crushed ice. I'm just going to use my cup here. That seems about right. And then you want to put all this in here, and according to the recipe I've got, you want to mix it for on high speed for no more than 5 seconds. So sounds about right. And then didn't actually look this part up, but I believe you just pour it in with the ice that you used here. And, well, aside from the stuff that leaked out at the bottom, that pretty much fills this mug up. I may need to get some new equipment around here. Or at least a new gasket for that. Wow. Alright. Well, I'll clean that up later. Let's see how this actually is. I'm not going to show it on camera just because it's, you know, you're just going to see the mug. So, alright, I will, let's see. I find that in a mixed drink, a generic rum is fine. Costco, hip hip hooray. Yes, I actually, in most, well, it depends a lot on the drink. In something like this, I think the generic rum's probably going to be fine. Using a better rum will improve it. How much it improves it, it's hard to say. Scott says, yay rum. And Lydia says, but they're conventionally sized. The grapefruit was conveniently sized to squeeze. So, all right, let's see how this is. Wow, there's a lot going on there. Yeah. So it's now that I should note that actually when they make this at Don the Beachcombers, they restrict you. They'll only make two of them for you before they throw you out because it's a lot. So here, let me go over the flavors here. So the first thing that hits you is a sort of a big spicy note, actually. And that's got to be the falernum mixed with the sort of the funk from the rum, and I'm using the term funk in a positive manner here. It's all the burnt sugar flavors and stuff from the dark rum, um, and then you get the pineapple and fruit juice, uh, which then kind of fades into more spices, and you can actually kind of taste the grenadine in there, but that might be what else is. I mean, there's just so much. Oh, it's the maraschino you can taste, and maybe some of the grenadine as well. Um, and yeah, just there is a lot going on. To try and tease out all those flavors would probably take an hour. Um, and there is a lot of alcohol in here too, as you heard. So I'm not going to try and finish this whole thing to tease out every last note, but mm, it is really good. Um, yeah, just it has that initial flavor where you get the spices and the fruit juice and all that kind of blending together, sort of at that interface between those two big notes. It's something I really associate with. I want to say sort of elevated tropical drinks. It's something that you really it's a common mixture of flavors, and it's been a long time since I've been to that kind of bar or restaurant, but I remember you get that, and then you get a lot of other flavors there, but that note seems to be present in a lot of them. And I think that the DNA goes back to sort of the Don the Beachcomber and Trader Vic and their various takes on cocktails. They kind of have some things in common at the root of them, and those notes are kind of in their DNA now. Um, Even coming forward, all the variations you see today, and there are a lot of variations on the zombie. I saw one that was a martini glass size version of it. Excuse me. There's someone else when I was talking about this before said that their favorite variation on it is a drink called the Jet Fighter, which is also incredibly interesting looking, and I may do that on a future episode. But again, has some of the same DNA to it, even with these modern takes on it. Um, they are all just, it's a really good, very interesting drink. It's got some stuff that, unless are into this kind of drink, you probably won't have on hand, and I'm sorry for that. Falernum is so basically, I got one of Beach Bumberry's books. I think it was actually the Potions of the Caribbean one. And I was like, I want to get into more, I want to study these kinds of drinks some and really get into them. And I don't have room to store 18 bottles of rum. Basically, with the rum I've got on hand, what can I make, and what's basically what's stopping me from making more drinks? And the first one I saw was falernum. A lot of recipes called for it, so I got a bottle of that. And then the next one was something else, which I don't think I actually did get to the point of getting. I actually got the maraschino to make maraschino cherries for like Manhattans and things, as I showed on an earlier episode. Um, but when you can build out your bar a little bit that way. Like I say, I was getting more into that style of drink, which is why I got the Flirtum, and there's a couple other things that I was looking at that I might get for the next layer of recipes and that sort of thing. So you can build out your bar that way. It's also fine not to. It's also fine just to order these in restaurants and such. But I try and keep things relatively simple. This was a different show. Yes, you want to be here? You want to be a part of the conversation? All right, come here, get. All right, she has opinions. Yes. Um, so anyway, yes, I highly recommend. That's all she wanted. Uh, so if you are building out your bar, do it, one type of drink at a time. Basically buy one bottle, see what new things you can, or rather, see what new things you want to make. Get the stuff you need to make for that, and then figure out what those let you make. Beyond that, it would be really nice if you could, on say, Punch or Imbibe or any of those websites, say, I have these ingredients. What can I make? Because they have a real habit, especially with the modern cocktails, of saying, here's this really great drink, and you need to have infused an entire bottle of gin with, some obscure flower for the last week to make this drink. And you're like, well, I'm not having that tonight. I actually have one that I want to make. It's a Earl Grey martini. It's a martini made with Earl Grey. It's actually more of a sour, but it's a really incredible drink. But you have to infuse, I can't remember if it's vodka or gin, with Earl Grey tea for a few hours and then strain it out. It's kind of a pain, especially if you don't know if you like the drink or not. It turns out it's a really good drink, though. Anyway, I'm rambling, probably because of the zombie. So, does anyone else have... Lydia Ray says, haha, you're going to need a lie down. Yes, I am. I am going to basically make it so that cats don't accidentally stab themselves on knives, and then I'm going to have some dinner and then probably go to bed. But anyway, what do folks think? Are they gonna, or is anyone out there gonna try making a zombie? Are you gonna try making a corpse survivor? Are you gonna stick with the apple cider? Which also, not a bad way to go. Are you gonna save up your pumpkin seeds and make pumpkin seeds this year? By the way, one fun trick we tried is that at one time Lori's work had a pumpkin carving contest, and she got all of the seeds and the goop from it, and I made like 5 batches of pumpkin seeds from it, and she had to take some back to work, but it bought her goodwill from her work for a long time. So if your work is doing that kind of thing, get all the seeds you can out of it. Lydia says she's going to make pumpkin seeds and add bourbon to my cider. Well, if so, let me know when you're in town to add that. Lori says that it was a very good year, the year that we got the pumpkin seeds from her work. So, all right. Well, thank you everyone for showing up. I really appreciate you being here. Here, let me go back to the big camera here. Go. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. This was a fun episode to do. We created a big mess, lots of chaos. Just perfect for Halloween. I hope you all have a great Halloween. Stay safe out there. Remember, COVID is still rampaging. Have a costume where you can wear a mask, and not just the cheap plastic masks we used to get as kids. You wear a mask under your mask. and stay safe. Have a great Halloween. Thank you.